Sender, message, receiver, sender, message, channel, receiver, and feedback. So if one of these elements are missing, what does that mean?
Breakdown in communication.
No, the thing. There's a breakdown in communication. But what I really want to define first of all is a barrier. What is a barrier? Persons think of barriers as being just mere obstacles, but that's not the case. There's more to a barrier. So the World Health Organization describes a barrier as a factor in a person's environment that through its absence or presence limits functioning. What does that mean? If you have something here, if we don't have the light here, you can't see me, right? Right? We know we're pretty, but answer. If we don't have the light, you can't see me, right? So that would be a breakdown in communication if I stop talking, because how would we be communicating? There's no communication there, right? So whether there's an absence or a presence of a thing or a factor, that can mean a barrier, all right? So some types of barriers, we have physical barriers, such as noise, poor lighting, and other environmental factors. We have language barriers, Japanese, Spanish, French, even Jamaican Creole is a barrier. We have cultural barriers. So cultural differences in norms, values, beliefs, and communication styles. Those can lead to misinterpretations. We have social barriers. And this relates to where people grow, people live, people work, and even the age. Because some people never talk to certain people in a certain age group, right? The older folks then have too much, I don't want to, anybody stole me, you know. They have a back in the day perception, and the younger folks have a no perception. Let's leave it at that, right? So age can be a social barrier in communication. Following me? Yeah. All right. We also have psychological barriers. So this relates to preconceived notions, biases, emotions, hi ladies, and different perceptions. Your perspectives on certain things can cause a barrier. If I look at the local government election one particular way, and another person looks at it another particular way, we're going to have a...
We're not going to know who wins.
Thank you. I'm glad you said it on your thing, all right? Yes. So there are different barriers to communication in different situations, all right? So those are the types of barriers. So we have identified them: language barriers, cultural barriers, social barriers, physical barriers, and psychological barriers. So how can we tackle these barriers? For the physical barriers, but in church, sometimes the PA system now works so good. Not sure. Right. Not sure. So that can be a barrier to communication, because if the pastor is preaching or the moderator is speaking and we can't hear, we might go wonder upon the Sunday dinner we will never cook it, right? So that is a barrier. So we have to tackle that barrier. Please fix the PA system or buy new ones, right? So it's simple. Sometimes, we don't even think about it. It's easy to identify the problem, it's easy to tackle the problem, and it's easy to solve some of these problems. Some of them require work, all right? The language barrier. So from my experience, different languages, when you're speaking with someone who speaks a different language, that is a communication barrier, especially if you don't speak the language. In Japan, they speak Japanese. 90% of the time, this is me. Because I don't understand what they're saying, so what I do, smile and nod. Or in Japanese, you bow. That's the courtesy there. Alright? So for language barriers, how can we tackle them? Google Translate. That's your best friend. I use it every day over there. Right? You learn the language, or you use translation services. Alright? Coming down. Cultural barriers, how do you tackle them? You practice cultural awareness. You have to respect different cultures. All of us here are Jamaicans, but we may not have the same idea or perspective of culture. Amen?
Amen.
You're not in church, Seyvonnie. You understand?
Amen.
I have to catch up on myself sometime, right? So we have to just understand another person's culture. You don't have to agree with it, but at least acknowledge it, understand it, and respect it, right? Psychological barriers now. We're looking at emotions, anger, fear, anxiety. All of these can cloud judgment and decision-making abilities. And we're also looking at perspectives, the difference in how individuals perceive and interpret information based on their personal experiences and perspectives can create misunderstandings in communication. So how can we tackle that? We have to create a safe and trusting environment. Some people call it safe space. But when you're talking to your friend, it's a much more relaxed environment for you to create that safe space. How you do that? You build relationship with that person. And that's how communication becomes easy, right? Actively listening, showing empathy, and avoiding judgment. You make up your mind about something in your head already. So even when you talk to the person about it, you already have your mind made up, right? So we have to avoid judgment prior to the communication situation, all right? And if you can acknowledge other person's feelings and to express your own in a meaningful and respectful manner. For perceptions, perspectives. Challenge your own assumptions and biases. Be open-minded. Ask questions. Seeking to understand the other person's perspective. And not because I look a particular way means that I communicate a particular way. Not because I wear orange means that I am for a particular party. Not because Crystal is walking around in orange means, alright, you understand? So please avoid stereotypes, alright? And I'm coming down now with the strategies to overcome communication barriers. And these are just some general tips. I have 6 of them. 1, be present, both physically and mentally. So when you're communicating with somebody, give them your undivided attention. Thank you. No bother on your phone or whatever, especially in a particular situation. Each situation requires that you give it your undivided attention. Be specific when sharing information. So don't share no vague information. I do this in team building activities with staff. So if you're in, let's say, a leadership group, and you share one word to your colleague is expected to figure out the whole entire sentence when you only shared one word? No, you have to be specific when sharing information. So if you want to say the sky is blue, don't just say blue and expect your colleague to know say the sky at talk about. Understand? Right. We have to be clear, right? Right. Encourage questions. If you don't understand something, ask a question. I do this every day because information can get lost. So if my deaf colleague signs something to me and I don't get it, I am not going to smile and nod. Because tomorrow, I'm going to need to know what he said today so I can either do a workshop or whatever. So if I misunderstand something, I'm going to be like, hold on, what you said? And he repeats what he said. So we have to ask questions when we don't understand, right? Don't just sit and be wondering, maybe he mean that, or maybe she mean that. Ask what they mean. And let them tell you, right? Number 4, be confident. Be confident in your communication, right? Don't leave space for questions. Don't talk like you're unsure. Probably nerves might play a part, but be confident when you're in conversations, right? And when you're talking with somebody, don't talk over each other. Allow each person to talk. So you say something, I say something. You say something, right? It's a communication. We need the message to be shared between both parties. And finally, let us respect each other. That's the main goal of the communication process. And we have to bear that in mind. So when the sender sends the message through whatever channel, spoken or written, the receiver receives the message, interprets it, hopefully correctly, and then provides feedback on the matter at hand. So thank you very much. I hope you were encouraged or you were enlightened, and I hope you learned something from this presentation. Thank you.
One more time for the beautiful Seyvonnie Campbell. Wow, we just spoke about common communication barriers, identifying and tackling barriers for effective communication.